Right, guys, welcome to the Resilient Businessmen podcast, episode number 7. Today, I'm joined by Mark Stern, who's got a really inspiring story to share about intermittent fasting, losing 3 stone in the process, and the impact it's had on his life, personally, business-wise. And also, he's going to talk us through his journey through, was it teenage years?
Yeah, late teenage years, Chris. Yeah.
Because there's some meaning behind the transition in terms of where he's at now, 59-year-old, etc., in the best shape of his life. So without further ado, Mark, if you just want to give a bit of insight to who you are, etc., and we'll get started.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Thanks very much, Chris. And appreciate being on here and having an opportunity to chat to speak about my journey and my story and what I really feel intermittent fasting has done for my life. As part of like my life. So it's been a tool that's really helped, but sometimes when you put things into place in your life and boundaries into place, you're expecting one thing, and then there could be 10 things that come from that one thing. I think I sort of put intermittent fasting into my life initially to sort of detox and lose weight, but what I didn't expect was really the mindfulness, the focus, and the joy, and how much it's impacted on my life since doing this. So my journey sort of starts back many years ago, to sort of really the age of 16, 17 years old, and being a part of a group of lads and just enjoying life in general and being a bit rebellious. Just, smoking some weed and partying as much as you possibly could, and your body just takes it, and it's you have no fear of injury nor death, and life just carries on that way. And it's only on reflection, one of the things is I grew up with an unusual childhood. It's one of those childhoods that I didn't realize was traumatic, because you accept what's happening. It's only later on that you then reflect and realize, wow, how did I get through that unscathed? And the answer to that is, you're not unscathed. You are scarred. But those scars create a challenge, an absolute challenge for you in life. And they make you into the person that you are. And hence the fact that I have no issue talking about my past whatsoever to anyone that will ask, because I'm proud of who I've eventually become, and it's taken many years. But yeah, so, I think one of my sort of reflection discoveries was the fact that 16, 18, 20 years old, and with a group of friends, and there's loads of us, there could be as many, 20 to 50 young people, and we're all enjoying ourselves partying, and we're all smoking weed, and we're just, hanging out at people's houses. And then you sort of, you're out there and you're starting work and you're doing things. And then I sort of realized that after about 10 years of this lifestyle, that those sort of 30 people that were doing weed had dwindled down. And many of them had given up. Many of them did it just for recreational use and just to have the laugh of what they were doing at the time. And that sort of steered me on a pathway of not having as much in common with my younger friends, and looking to other people. And those other people are doing drugs, and they're doing more drugs, and they're doing it more frequently, and they become your friends. Whether you question that, you can put a question mark over the word friend, but they're people that you're on a journey with at that point. Yeah.
Just a question, sorry, Mark. Why do you think you stayed in that lifestyle and your friends transitioned into something else? Why did you stick around with it, do you think?
Well, I think on reflection, it's because I did drugs to numb
what was going on in the past.
Whereas they were not having that experience. They were doing the drugs because it made them feel good for that moment, and they could, do without it, or they could do with it, and that was it. Those are the sort of people that would never go out and buy a bag of weed, but they'd be around and have a smoke from you if you were offering it around, and that was it, take it or leave it. Yeah. And I think that's the thing, is that, when I sort of scope forward 20 years, 30 years forward from then, I'd realized that actually the amount of friends that I had was tiny, and the only people that really were my friends, it came to be, was my drug dealer. And it had affected me in my relationships. I've been married a few times, and for long periods of time as well. First marriage was 7-8 years. Second marriage was 13 years. And I'm married again now to a wonderful woman who's helped change my life, and we're on 10 years. And this will be the very last time I ever get married again, because, well, what I realized that you've always got control. So it can be the last time you ever get married again if you make that decision, because you've got the control to help your wife and love your wife and respect her, or you have the control to make the decision to do what you want and live your life like a single person. And generally what I feel is that, my wife's given me a lot of help and a lot of support, and she's helped me on the pathway that I'm on right now.
So you've been married 3 times?
Yes.
What's your take on marriage as a whole? I got engaged this year to my fiance now, of course. What's your take on marriage if you've been married 3 times?
I love marriage. I love the security. It's funny because you get some people that will have one bad marriage, one bad experience, and say, I'm never doing that again. And that's obviously to do with their past and what they've grown up with. My trauma in my past come a lot from abandonment. So, I had real partying parents that were out all the time. And, I'd sometimes wake up in the morning and they wouldn't be back yet because they were still out partying from the night before. And it'd be my responsibility to get up and get my sisters ready to go to school, still worrying that they hadn't been killed on the way home in a car crash. So it's that sort of trauma. So I tended to be very, very needy within my relationships, because I needed that security all the time, which is a burden to put on anybody, So I was, I'm very sort of, I suppose, well known to be in a relationship where the honeymoon period lasts forever. And it does last forever. And I can completely sustain a honeymoon period lasting forever. But being realistic, but a lot of people can't do that. And therefore, I become quite a needy person. What I realized is that neediness comes from insecurity. And the security blanket I was using was either getting high, or being very needy within the relationship, which was causing arguments. So I'm really into the point where I think at the age of 59, and I met Anne, who I'm married to now, when I was 49, is that should have been my very first time. Just because we're in our 20s or in our 30s and we think all our friends are getting married and settling down, and we think, oh, it's about time I did it, or we think, especially from a woman's point of view, got to have kids soon, got to settle down. But it's your responsibility to that partner. Your responsibility as a married man has to be to not change the life of that person or not make it any worse. It's to look after them emotionally as well as everything else, and to be kind and to be nice. But when you're young, you don't realize that. We go from being single to being in a very selfish stage of our life. I mean, you think about it, Chris, when you're young, right? When you're in your teens, your world is tiny. It's only about you and your mates. That's it.
Yeah.
And then when you go out and work, it's only about you and your mates and your job. And that's it as well. Yeah. And then during my early marriages, it was only a little bit better than that. It was just about me, my mates, my jobs, and my wife. But what I realize now, much bigger picture, because it's about my wife's world as well. So it's her world, it's her family, it's the extended family. You see so many. I always say, if you see so many cracks, you need to be able to love just not your wife, but her family, her passions, her loves. You don't have to do everything with her, but that support has to be there and the interest has to be there. It is. I ride a Harley Davidson, and Anne doesn't ride a Harley Davidson. She comes on the back of it, but she'll be there looking and telling me things as well, and say, "Oh, can we go to a Harley shop?" I've got all secondhand riding gear, and she has all the new stuff. But that's because I want her to feel good about my passion and my sport, or my hobby. So I think with marriage, it's about marriage is amazing and it will work as long as you're sorted out. And as long as you don't impose your past, your negativity onto that person, then it's a brilliant thing. So it's like the flight attendant, isn't it? It's like when you go onto an airplane and they say, you know, in case of an emergency, put your oxygen mask on before you put it on your children. Yeah. And it's like, sort yourself out first, because you're no good to anyone if you're not sorted out.
Yeah, if you can't help yourself, you can't help anybody else.
Right,
yeah.
That's it. That's it. So I really sort of found that my journey in life, you know, it's really funny. This is an interesting fact, and I think people could probably relate to this, because I've researched this just through myself. Is I grew up in a household with two younger sisters. We all experienced the same trauma, and we all reacted to it in a very different way. I was born a happy person. I think you are born happy. Well, let's put it this way: every child is born happy. Every single child is born as a blank canvas. So you are happy, but it's what happens in between and how you choose to react to those things. You know, I think as men, we're fortunate that we find it easier to brush things aside. We find it easier to make up with other men that have wronged us. It's very easy for us to let things go and move on. And I grew up in a household of women. My dad was present, but my dad was the issue within our family. So therefore my support was always for my mum and my sisters. And I have quite a few feminine traits within my personality, which actually I'm really proud of. It's amazing because...
Have you got any examples?
Yeah, just things like being emotional. You know, I'll cry if I see a film that upsets me. I'll cry from happiness. You know, I get a lot of joy from seeing other people's relationships happy, and I think that's what one of the big things is my my emotional. I'm very emotional, and I'm very romantic as well. Well, mind you, guys should be romantic. That's for sure. But it's more of the fact that, you know, I speak about my feelings. That's the other thing. That's the thing that Anne always says. She says she never met anyone that talks so openly about their feelings.
Yeah.
But you know what? If you talk about it, it doesn't stay in you. If it doesn't stay in you, it can't hurt you.
Yeah.
And that's an incredible medicine, because we haven't even talked about medicines and stuff yet, Chris, but I'm very much against anything that's not natural.
Right.
I'm purely of the opinion that if we were created by God or by a presence and energy, or this earth was created as a plan, then everything we need to heal ourselves should be out there, just out there on this earth. You know, if a dog's unwell, a dog will walk along and start chewing grass, knowing instinctively that it will help it soothe its stomach. We've lost that over the thousands of years of our evolvement.
Yeah. And
we rely upon people that we think know better than us, but we've all got the ability to be the people that know better than us. You know, I definitely think that humans haven't evolved. I think that we were just as intelligent 3,000 years ago. When you look at the pyramids, when you look at the ancient civilizations that are no longer with us anymore, you know, it makes me think, well, why did we not have cars 3,000 years ago? And I think that side of the engineering had to evolve and be discovered, and oil had to be discovered and things like that. But we were just as intelligent as we are today, even more so. I think we were more spiritual back then, which means that we could communicate with each other better.
I was wondering there, like, as you're saying that, are we like, our involvement is like reducing because of technology? We don't have to think as much. Everything's just at the click of a finger. I think we're going downhill rather than continuing to progress, to be honest. Technology's progressing, but we're probably going in the opposite direction, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say as well. I'd say it's lazy, you know. Yeah. The only thing that's getting bigger is our finger, because we can use the phone really quickly, and that's it. I I definitely think that we have the ability to bring that back on ourselves again and become mindful. And as long as we do things like meditate, and we communicate, and we prioritize kindness over disrespect, and we actually prioritize love over indifference, because I can't stand the word hate. I think hate and love are probably quite similar. But indifference is where you just don't care. And I think that's a lot more effective than hating somebody, just walking away. Then I think as long as we prioritize people over things, that's what it all comes down to, then we'll be okay. Then we really will be okay. And that's a constant journey, because it's a journey where you have to be aware of yourself many times throughout the day, because we get wrapped up and we get swept away, don't we? We get swept away in what we're doing for work and phone calls, which we need to take, and we need to work our businesses and be professional. But we also need to give ourselves time, 4 times a day. And this goes into intermittent fasting a little bit now. So I'm going to talk about boundaries and timings, because 4 times a day, I remove myself from what I'm doing. And the way that I'll do that is I put it in my diary, and I put an M for mindfulness. Okay. And it's only for 15 minutes. And it's funny, back in the old days, we used to do that. We used to have we used to have fag breaks, tea breaks. And they were doing this the exact opposite, because we were taking a break from our job, which was great for our mind, but then we were stuffing our faces with cakes and biscuits and having a cigarette, and drinking loads of caffeine, which was having the opposite effect on our body and our mind. But in essence, what I'll do is I'll take a few minutes away. I'm absolute crap at meditating. I really am, but I'll rub my 2 fingers together like that, so I can feel the ridges of my fingertips against each other, and it completely takes me away from.
Is that where that comes from? Is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's actually, I did a course called Positive Intelligence, and if anybody's interested, I can steer people to the people that run this course, which is absolutely incredible. But one of the things that you do, it's really about just removing yourself. I'm really lucky I work from home. And I've got a park across the road. So I'll take the dog out for a quick walk. I'll do something where I remove myself from what I'm doing. And within that space, I'll think of my wife as well. I'll think of my family. I'll think of how that brings me on to feeling really grateful, because I've had such a crappy relationship past. Then all I can be now is really grateful to this amazing woman. So that's great. And then when I come back into work, my mind's completely refreshed. It's like reset, boom, start again, carry on. And part of this journey has been through my wife, Anne. Now, Anne is a spiritual life coach. She's a tarot reader, and she's been reading tarot for 30 odd years. And she has a very successful business, all on her own, basically, doing tarot readings and very spiritual mindfulness. And when she met me, I wasn't on that pathway at all. All I was a weed smoker. And I brought her into my world, and I said to her, because she was the person that would not smoke weed, but not turn it down either. If she was at a party, she could be one that would either have a gin and tonic or a few little puffs and not do it again for a year. And so I brought her into my world at the age of 49, and I could show you pictures of me, which I've got on my phone, 10 years ago, and you wouldn't recognize me.
Really?
There's a photo of me standing next to my best friend at the time, who actually passed away just 6 months after the photo was taken. He had cancer for 6 years, and he was dying, and I looked like the guy that was dying. I was at least 3 stone heavier than I am now. Smoking weed, working really hard, so holding down a good job, but not being authentic, because I was being 2 people. I was still trying to be a partier, and about work being really professional. and it just didn't work out. I meet Anne, bring Anne into my world, completely draw her into mine, and which was the wrong thing to do, but that's what I tend to do in any case. And then we had a relationship in reverse. To a lot of relationships, we had all the storminess and all the rows and all the terrible things happen to us in the first 3 or 4 years in our relationship, which is, funny enough, it is the opposite, because you tend to find that in relationships, the first few years are the great parts, and then it just sort of starts to dwindle. And you look at people that have been married for many years, and that's what they're like. And he does his thing, she does her thing. Sometimes they can be quite disrespectful towards each other.
Yeah.
And that. But we had it the other way around. We had that at the beginning, and we literally locked horns. And the only thing that she was prepared to do was to give me her time and try to help me to sort myself out and go down a spiritual pathway. So we were with each other for a few years. I proposed to her, we got married, and we still had issues after being married in a year. So to give you some background into this relationship, so I'm not a religious man, but I'm a Jewish guy, and Anne's a Jewish girl. And we got married in a non-religious ceremony in a registry office. And after we had a lovely ceremony, really nice, as you would expect. And then our issues didn't go. We came back from honeymoon. We were still smoking weed. It was still, everything was going. I was still pushing the boundaries and pushing the boundaries the whole time. And it got to that point where Anne had had enough. And she gave me the ultimatum and said to me, there we go, you can go and find another wife to marry. And I just thought, I can't do this again. I just can't. I was so embarrassed. I thought, oh my God, who's gonna want me after being married so many times? I'm getting older. I love the woman to bits. And I just had that realization that if I'm the common denominator in these failed relationships, then it must be me. It can't be them. Because see, that's a realization that sometimes you have to realize. If enough people are telling you you're wrong, then you're wrong. Even if you think you're right, you are. Otherwise, some of them would be on your side. And her kids as well. I just think, oh, they're going to be on my side. They're, we're all lads, we're all boys together. Their behavior is not great. But no, they weren't just defending their mum. They were wanting the best for their mother, which I completely get. So Anne gave me the ultimatum: you give up smoking weed right now, or you go. And that's it.
You think you would have changed if you didn't get that ultimatum?
I wanted to, because I felt myself ill. I felt myself getting ill from the act of smoking, anything, just smoking. I was grey and I was fat and I hated looking at myself. And as you get older as well, Chris, you start looking at your peers and you think, how do they look and how do I look? And, it's funny, when you're young, it's called vanity. When you're older, it's called looking after yourself.
When you say that, I had a message someone yesterday on social media about my coaching service, and he's like, oh, I'm in my 50s. Like, you stop caring about yourself when you're this age, Chris. I don't need your help. And I was thinking,
rubbish. Oh my God. Then you're signing your life away.
I'm thinking, really? Like, it's just so defensive straight away. I was like, all right, then obviously we're not a good fit, but I was like, that's not the truth, surely.
No, it's not. Do you know what? This is a good thing to tell people. All right. I witnessed this so many times. So you witness people in their 50s and they say, well, you know what? I'd rather eat crap food. I'd rather still smoke and die a few years earlier than I would do anyway. But at least I'll be enjoying my life. The issue is it's not the few years earlier. The dying part of dying is the easy bit. I'm sure it is. It's the going to sleep, never waking up. That must be quite easy. We do it every single day. The hard bit is it's very difficult to die. It takes years and years and decades to die. So it's the suffering for 20 years before you die. It's the slowing down of your body. It's your knees giving out. It's maybe having angina attacks, maybe having cancers that are treatable for a while. it's thinking to yourself, you know what? If you ask me, when's the best time of your life? When was your best decade? I'd have to say now, today. Because if I say anything earlier, then I'm living in the past, aren't I? It has to be today. But if I, God forbid, was in bad way physically, then I'd have to say it was in the past. And who's responsible for that?
Not many people would say that, would they?
No.
20s, 30s, then with the
Yeah, I don't. I say now, right now. Because my body doesn't feel any different, and that's the only difference. But my mind's stronger, and I've got all my rubbish sorted out now. So it is now. So the only thing that should stop you from saying today is your body giving out. Nothing else. You should be in a better position financially. There's so many reasons why in your 50s and 60s you're better off than you are in your 20s and 30s. That the only negative is the body.
Yeah.
And therefore, so it's your responsibility to look after it. So we decided, so I gave up smoking the weed immediately, cold turkey, after 16 years to 52 and a half, 16 to 52 and a half. And the half makes a difference because it was boom, there. Wow. And I didn't know what to do with myself. So I decided to become religious, which I'm not now. But religion was my gateway. That was my gateway drug to spiritualism. Okay. Because it was something that I could, so many people could be religious, so that's fine. I'll do that. Didn't know a lot about spiritualism. Always still felt a little bit uncomfortable, even 8 years ago, talking about being spiritual. Now I'll tell anybody who wants to listen.
I think that spirituality is maybe more common now than religion, I'd say.
Isn't it? Yeah. Well, it is because actually what we realize now is what religion is. Religion was the original, this is my view, by the way. I think that religion was the original media and police force rolled into one. This was it. So, it was policing to make sure that, we didn't break the law. So that's fine. These are your rules. And you'll go to hell if you do. And media being we could communicate that to each other. It was easy to communicate it by everyone going to one place, like a church or a synagogue or a temple, and actually spreading the word. If religion was invented today, we'd just be doing it all through social media.
I'd say, yeah. I agree, to be fair. Some people will disagree watching this, but actually believe, that's probably the truth for me.
Yeah, there you go. Just these are all just my thoughts. It's just, to me, it seems logical. So, but it's amazing what comes out of stuff that I went kicking and screaming because Anne said to me, right, we got married in a registry office. If you're going to do this, you're going to learn properly. And we're going to get in contact with a rabbi, and we're going to get married in another year's time in a synagogue and have God bless us. So this was the first time that food was ever introduced into my way of thinking. So I'm spending time on a one-to-one with an extremely orthodox religious rabbi, the sort of rabbis that any non-Jewish people would picture with, long beards, long coats, and the whole shebang.
Yeah.
And I found that I didn't realize how much I had in common with this guy, not just the religion, but just in common. He was saying, because I was talking to him in a way that I was talking now, and he said, you know what, Mark, your belief system is so strong, but you don't even realize it because you're not associating it with religion, but your own mindset is fantastic. And that made me feel like religion actually is all about spiritualism. There's only, we're all going for the same thing. We're all going to be kind and do the right thing. So he then tells me about how he gets by with the dietary laws of being a Jew and only eating kosher food. An example he said to me, he said, so if I'm out in a high street, could be anywhere in the UK, and I get hungry and I want something to eat, the first thing I have to do is look up and see, are there any kosher restaurants around here? He said, but if I'm in the middle of Bradford or whatever, there won't be, there hardly probably will be. So first thing I've got to do then is look at my phone, try to find where the closest place is. So it might be that I have to get in my car and drive another 15, 20 minutes. I can't just walk into McDonald's. Just can't do that. or into a local cafe. But I'm still hungry. I'm hungry just like you would be hungry. It's like, oh, yeah, okay, get that. Then eventually, when I find the restaurant that I can go into, I walk in there. I'll need to check the certificate on the wall, because there is, they call it kashrut, to make sure it's been certified that it is properly kosher restaurant. Then I have to, before I can even sit down, I have to go into the bathroom and I have to wash my hands as a particular ritual, and then sit down, read the menu, order my food comes on. Before I dive in, which could be an hour after I first got the hunger pains, where you could have gone into, anyone would have gone into a restaurant and just picked something up. And at that moment, do I say a prayer and I eat? But I'm still hungry. I'm hungry at the same point that you would be hungry. So I didn't know about intermittent fasting at that time, but I loved that story, because what that story showed me is mind over matter, boundaries, and integrity. Doing the right thing even when nobody's looking really is important. So then the religious part came. We had a religious wedding. It was wonderful. And then we sort of, we started reliving our lives just the way that we like to live our lives, in being mindful, being caring, being kind, and showing love. Then we start to, Anne starts talking about intermittent fasting. She was starting to lose weight. She went to a dietitian. She realized that she needed to cut out certain things. We both decided to go vegan 4 years ago. And almost on the same day that we decided to go vegan, we decided to intermittent fast. I have to say, I went on to Weight Watchers for a bit and lost a bit of, and I lost my weight. But I've done Weight Watchers in the past. I'd lost 3 stone on Weight Watchers over a period of a year. And then in the past, that would all come back on, plus probably another half a stone. So this time, intermittent fasting, and I didn't realize how incredible it changed my world. What it did was, I do the what do they call it? Is it the 16/8? So
yeah, same as me.
Yeah. So I won't eat until midday, between 12 and 1 o'clock. And then I'll eat again between 6 and 7, and that's it. And I'll just drink water whenever I want. And it's just about food. It's quite interesting because it's not a religion. Same with being a vegan, is not a religion. So you can cheat if you need to, but you can't cheat if you really want it to change your world and you want to change as a person. So what I found with intermittent fasting is the first thing it did was I started to feel my muscles, everything sort of tightening up. And I wasn't going to the gym at that stage. It was just the intermittent fasting and just walking and getting normal exercise. I found that being hungry between 7 in the morning and 12 o'clock really only lasted for a few days. And actually, as long as I was drinking water, it took the hunger away, because it sort of delays it. Drinking water delays the hunger. And then, at the time it come to 11 o'clock in the morning, I'd think, oh, great, I can eat in an hour. And the focus that you do. I had this experience when I was riding on my Harley, and I was starving hungry. I actually tried some intermittent fasting. I tried to go down to 1 a day, which was this experience. So I forget what I think. I was thinking of eating at 5 o'clock in the day, and that was it. And I tried this for a few days, and it was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was absolutely starving hungry. So I decided to go out for a ride. A beautiful sunny day. Went for a ride on the Harley. And as I'm riding through these country lanes, and it's just absolutely gorgeous out there. Got the open face helmet on, and I could feel my stomach in a bit of pain. And I just started focusing on how lucky am I to be riding a Harley Davidson with this noise going on and the vibration and out in nature, and just really got into that, it. And by the time I finished the ride, I'd forgotten all completely that I was even hungry.
Yeah.
So but yeah, so intermittent fasting's given me focus. And then this is when it then started to change my business. So believe it or not, wonder if everyone's probably trying to guess what I actually do for a living while we're sitting here, because nothing around me that you can see right now gives you a clue, and neither does my t-shirt. But I'm an estate agent, and I work on my own. I work from home. I've got my own estate agency, and I started it during lockdown on my own. I've been an agent since I was 16, since I left school. So plenty of experience and knowledge. But starting up on my own and really having this focus has made my business such a success. I started in October 2020. I live out in Watford, a little plug for myself. So if anybody's looking to sell their property,
definitely
want someone that's that's been through it all, that's very open and transparent. And that's where my business is successful, because I'm open and transparent with people.
Yeah.
So it really works in that way. And that's really sort of my journey up to date.
So do you think it's improved your discipline, intermittent fasting, in addition to your business? Is that what you're getting at there?
Yeah, it is. So I push myself now. I've been going for the last 6 months to the gym every other day without fail. And that's, I'll tell you something. So I was going to the gym from the age of 20 to the age of 40. And I remember, or 45 maybe, and then I stopped. And when I was younger, I was always a bit heavy, always been a bit heavy, except for when I was in my teens. But I used to go to the gym a lot. So I was one of these guys, my body shape was very big, really big, but a big stomach as well. And I used to work out and think, well, as long as my chest is always bigger than my stomach, and it meant that my chest could be out here and my stomach was just there, but I was still a huge guy, then I'd be all right. And what I found was losing the weight, then the intermittent fasting for 4 years now, 4 years been intermittent fasting for, without ever breaking it. Once B&B, because we paid for the B in the morning, and we ate it and we felt like sluggish for hours. And it's like, no, it doesn't matter if we pay for breakfast, we just won't eat it next time. And that's that. But yeah, what I found is that I feel that my muscle mass is better now than it was 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I couldn't see my muscles. I always had big arms, but that was about it. But now I'm lean. I've got, my muscles are defined. And this is at the age of 59, where you'd think they would be starting to get really sort of flabby and, waving around your muscles a little bit.
The average 59-year-olds just like that, aren't they? And they've given up on themselves.
Yeah, really. Yeah, exactly. I'm still actually, Chris, thinking about that guy that said, I don't need this now. It's like,
I've got this horrible energy. I was like, whoa. It was bizarre.
I know.
It's the opposite today, but yeah.
No, it is that, isn't it? It is. It's funny. I was told that you get to an age when you're over 80, and that is the age of over 80 is when you should start eating loads of cakes and sweet things, because you do start, you look at elderly people in their 90s.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
And they get much smaller. They do start to get smaller, and their muscles and everything just start shrinking away. And they, by that time, that is an elderly person. But I don't know, there's you should keep trying, because it's enjoyable as well. It really is enjoyable. I'm not a fanatic. I'm not a fitness fanatic. All of my fitness regime is within normality. So when I go to the gym, I don't do cardiovascular because I hate it. But the gym is a 25-minute walk, fast pace from my house. So that's my cardiovascular. Walk there at a good pace the whole time. Get there, the heart's going. So then I just walk into the gym. I then just do my stretches, do my weights, do my stretches again, and walk home. And then take the dog out for about an hour and a half as well. And this is very early in the morning. So I'm at the gym for sort of 7 o'clock in the morning, 6:37, and it's brilliant.
That's literally pretty much the same as me. The gym's 25 minutes up the road. That's my cardio. I do weights, come back, take the dogs out.
Oh, it is the same, isn't it then? It really is. Yeah. It's we have a responsibility to ourselves, and it just changes your mood. It makes you happy. My God, if my mother, right, she's 85 years old. She's right now gone to the Isle of Wight on the back of a motorbike of her partner, who I love, my stepdad, although they're not married, but he's like her toy boy. He's 13 years younger than her. I always say he's the in-betweener. He's 13 years older than me and younger than her. And if you see her walk from behind, you would just think she's a woman, 40, whatever. There's no slowness. There's no, there's no muscle waste within the way she walks. It's normal speed, it's normal pace, and she's just fine. And I think that she has the most incredibly positive mindset, even though what she went through when she was younger with my late father, she has the most incredible mindset. And I inspired to be like her because she's also happy all the time, but not ridiculously happy. She's not one of these people that brushes things under the carpet. There's a difference of, I say that it's and it's hers, it's our default position is happiness. So when stuff happens to you in life that you need to deal with that doesn't call for happiness, it calls for directness and sadness or whatever, and stress, then you deal with it. And once it's dealt with, boom, default, straight back to happiness again, move on to the next thing. And I have a mantra that I say with Anne every morning. And we wake up, we've been doing this now, oh my God, now probably best part of a year, and it works. And that is, we wake up and we say, dear universe, show me how amazing my day is going to be today. And even if it's not, it has been. I'll tell you, Chris, it hasn't been a bad day in a year. There have been, but there've been elements of the day. As an estate agent, I don't have any deals that fall through, but I do get disappointments. I have things that I'm expecting to, get a sale together, get it negotiated, and it doesn't happen. But that's not a bad day, because the way I look at that is, well, it wasn't there. So
I think it's just what's just triggered in my mind there, because normally when people have something bad happen to them, it's like a domino effect. Like the actions just turns bad for the rest of the day, and then it becomes a bad day. But because you have a small something goes wrong, but then you go into a default of just being happy again, you stop that cycle and it's not a bad day. If anybody was thinking about intermittent fasting, what would your advice be on it? You got any advice?
Yeah, I tell you now, all right, I have got advice. So first of all, it's not going to do you any harm. There is like a little disclaimer. People say you should always speak to your doctor, and I guess that is the case to a point. But we're not going to die from not eating a meal. All right. If you were stuck on a desert island, you'd not be eating for a bit, but you'd still be alive for a long time before so all that you're having is a bit of discomfort. So if you can relate this to something else, it's like the pleasure, it's the pain before the pleasure. Okay. So let's just put this into another perspective. If you're going to have some cosmetic surgery done on your body, that's going to be bloody painful. And it may be painful for weeks and weeks. But then you're going to have the pleasure of the result. As you can see by my arms, I'm quite a hairy man. So I was cursed with having a hairy back, okay? When I was going on holiday, I wanted to have my back waxed. So I had my back waxed, and it was awful pain to get that done. But the pleasure was I didn't have to worry about it on holiday. It was great, and this is what it is. So intermittent fasting, and it's not painful. It is really pleasurable. And actually the buzz you get from doing it, because this is what it is, it's that achievement as well. It's like, I've done that. Yeah. I've been doing that for 3 days now. I've been doing it for a week. I've been doing it for 3 weeks. I've been doing it for 2 years, 3 years. That's what I do. And I'm proud when I'm with other people and I say to them, oh yeah, I intermittent fast. And they're like, oh no, I couldn't do that. I loved my breakfast. It's like, oh, really? Yeah, we all love our breakfast. You know what? If food didn't cause me any issues whatsoever, I'd be eating all day long, and I'd be eating pies and cakes all the time. All right. Yeah. If it was exactly the opposite, and the more you ate, the more you lost weight. Yeah, brilliant, but it isn't. So you've got to just put things into priority.
Yeah. So the first week I found, from my experience, you get a bad head first couple of days because your body's adjusting. After that, it just becomes the norm, doesn't it?
It does.
I personally use it. My clients use it as well. Not pushed upon it, but I suggest it to them, and then they tend to love the routine. You take a huge chunk of calories away from your morning, so that ends up putting you in a calorie deficit. You start to lose body fat, your energy goes up, and it's just a domino effect, isn't it? So one thing I want to pick your brain about, because we've spoke previously, is your thoughts on the personality thing in terms of business, combining and merging the two from business to who you are with your mates, because I found that very fascinating.
Yeah. Okay, so it's about being authentic, being the person that you are in business and out of business. And I can refer to this based on who I used to be, and then seeing it again with our middle son. So what it is that I used to, as I said earlier on, used to be a weed smoker, and it can be, you know, and enjoy partying and stuff like that. But nobody would ever know that in the office. No one ever knew that that's what it was. So, you know, I'd turn up at 8:30 in the morning till 6 o'clock, and I was Mr. Professional. And then as soon as I get in the door, first thing I did was roll up a joint and have a smoke, and I'll be gone for the evening. And what I then would realize is that, well, over years of smoking weed, your memory is shot, completely shot. So I was very famous for having a diary next to me all the time, and every thought that came into my mind, I'd have to write it down, because otherwise I'd forget it. So I was always having lists and lists. And I remember somebody once commenting on it when I was only in my mid-40s and saying to me, oh, that's an age thing. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm only in my mid-40s. I mean, now, you know, sort of 15 years on from that. And what I've realized since 2020 about having my own business, and within that period of time, I'd already been intermittent fasting for 2 years. I've been vegan for 2 years. I'd stopped smoking weed for 6 years before that, is that I do a huge amount of my business through social media. I make at least 3 videos a week on property, my opinions on the market and things like that. And I also am a mentor for estate agents, and I do some business mentoring for people that aren't estate agents as well. And one of the things that I realized is that you need to be the same person all the time. There can be variations of you, but for example, I am aware of myself when I'm out socially now. All right. So if I'm in a restaurant in Watford, there could be anybody sitting around me in that restaurant that maybe recognize me from my for sale boards, recognize me from social media, or is about thinking about putting their property on the market, and then just happens to come across me in the next week or two and just think, I remember that guy in the restaurant, he was pissed out of his head, he was making a right fool of himself. Nah, that's not for me. Okay. So it's about, you don't know who's watching, and someone that turns around and says, I don't give a damn what people think about me, is actually a very selfish person, full of ego, because there's a reason behind everything that you do in your life and the choices that you make. And one of those choices that I found out through my own experience is when I started to merge who I am as a person in my private life and personal life to who I am in my business life and make them as close as I possibly could, then my business became more successful and I became much happier. And I also didn't have to lie. I didn't have to try to pull the wool over anybody's eyes, because I could just be me. So as well as me behaving myself when I'm out in public, and believe me, I'm a bass player in a rock band as well, by the way. So I do have my persona of just really letting myself go, and I'm quite extrovert when I'm performing.
Yeah.
But it's all done in the best possible taste, in the words of Kenny Everett from 1970, whatever it was, before your time. However, as it also works the other way around. So it means that in business, I can be fun. So the way that I'm chatting to you right now is how I'll chat to all my customers, all my clients. I don't hold anything back. If somebody wants to get into talking deep about spirituality, I'll talk about it with them. I'll talk about intermittent fasting with my clients. You know, my wife's doing house blessings. I've got 11 properties right now, all under offer, and every single buyer, for some universe reason, have been people that have been open enough to talk about spirituality with me along the process. And then when I talk about the fact that my Anne says that every property has the energy in it of the previous people that lived there. So when they go, that energy is still there. So every argument, every row they've had is still within those walls of that property, and that energy can come within you. She does house clearances, and every one of these 11 buyers have all said, I want it, without nobody's even said no. It's like, boom, and she's out there doing them all the time now. It's like really kicked off. We call it Bless This House, also after the 1970s sitcom, because that's what it is. Wow. And then I had to give this advice to my son, who I call him 1980s man, because he is exactly like you see Wolf of Wall Street. You know, he works so hard. He is so successful in his industry, but he will go on a bender for 3 days. We won't see him, and he'll be at work, but he'll just be out all night and then at work, and then out all night and at work. And he's really, you know, like he's making a load of money, but he's doing that sort of thing. And he was up for a promotion at a young age of 28, a really good promotion. He would have been a director of this corporation that he worked for. And he's made more money for the company than anybody's ever made. So that's how much they respected him. Wow. They turned around and said to him that, you know what, you're that close, but we just don't think you're mature enough the way that you come across in your personal life to handle that responsibility. And we don't think you would be the sort of role model. So, you know, that position's open to you, but we'll review it every year. Right. And he completely understood what they said. He wasn't even disappointed. He's just like, you know what, they were right. They were so right. And I said to him, that's what I had to do. And you've got the benefit of knowing that information at the age of 28. I didn't realize it until I was like, you know, 53, 54. It's like, yeah. You're going to be successful because you can put it in place now. Just get out your system and then just get your head down. So that's it. Yeah.
So where's he at now? Is he getting it out of his system, or is he still doing it?
No, he's really getting it out of his system. And he's not doing it anywhere near like he was now. No, I'd say he's pretty normal within his peers. He was the extreme one. He's not now. And he's keeping it under control. This is about 3-4 months ago that he had that sort of news that he needed to clean up his act, and he's really working on it. He's actually also become really quite spiritual, very spiritual, which he never was before. You know, he was always like, oh, there's no God, there's, you know, everything's evolution, and he was going down the Darwin theory, and now he's like changed like that. He's completely changed. He said there has to be something. We can't just have come from, you know, nothing, a speck. So yeah, that's that.
I can feel myself drifting towards it as well. Since I started studying behavior change, spirituality from one of my coaches, he was dipping our toe into it, and it's definitely interested me. So maybe I'll get contact details from your missus to.
Yeah, definitely do.
To be honest, because I'll be interested.
Yeah. You know, you Chris, do that. She'll definitely be able to give you some good pointers and see where you want to go with it.
Nice. Any final thoughts on your resilient journey in life? Any words of wisdom to finish?
Well, did I not give any words of wisdom throughout this chat?
There's too much wisdom, but what would your recap be?
Oh, do you know what it is? It's just about this, right? I think the words of wisdom I have is, we have one life. The life does not end when you hit 40 or when you hit 50, and not even when you hit 60, which would be next year for me. And when I look at my mum, it's not going to end. It doesn't end when you hit 80.
Yeah.
It ends when you say it's going to end. All right. It's like, you know, it's like you're a classic car, and that's it. As you get older, you're a classic car. If you maintain it, Do you know, it's funny. It's like if I go back 20 years, and I use that as my example. If I go back 20 years and people had classic cars then, and they were all right, they looked great, but they didn't look amazing. They just looked really good when they had done them up, and they looked really good at car shows. Because I'm a bit of a petrol head. Yeah, it looked great. Now you go to car shows, and these cars look better than when they were first ever invented. And the reason why they look better is because things like paint's better now. Materials used for upholstery is better now, and exhaust systems have evolved. So there's loads of bits that they put on which look exactly the same as the original bits, but they look better. And that's because there's been progress being made in creating better paints and better this and better that. So what that should mean to us, to me, is exactly the same thing. If you go back 15 years and start talking about spirituality and mindfulness and energy and things like that, 90% of the British public would think we're David Icke, and that's it.
Roll the eyes or frown.
Yeah. But now people are realizing that a healthy mind is really the beginning of what it takes to have a healthy body and a healthy life and a healthy relationship. And you've got to live in the moment. You need to live. It's just today. What happened yesterday is in the past. What's happening tomorrow is a dream. Today, the only thing that's real right now is I'm sitting here chatting to you.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And you've got to practice that, haven't you? It takes time to get to that level. I'm still not at that level. Sometimes I worry about the future and stuff, but when you're completely present, you just enjoy life because you just take it one step at a time, don't you? Yeah.
You know what, Chris? Seriously, message me after, and I'll give you Anne's phone number. I'll send you her number and everything. Have a chat with her because, yeah, you'll enjoy the conversation. That's for sure.
Yeah, I definitely will. Right, guys, we're going to wrap this up. This has been Mark Stern's Resilient Businessman Journey. We've took a lot of wisdom from that one. I certainly have. It's been a pleasure chatting, Mark.
Thanks very much, Chris. I'll speak to you soon. I'll pass you a number. Take care.